Next Gen fam, what's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday afternoon if we're coming to East Coast.
4 p.m. on a Tuesday, and we're live with NGHQ. We've got a special guest for you, a special episode. We're pumped to be here. We're so grateful to our entire Next Gen community. Thanks for joining us.
Look, we didn't plan to match today. We've now been embarrassed in like 11 phone calls, but we're just in a good mood. We're happy to see all of our Next Gen fam. Hop in the comments. Let us know who's here. Say what's up. I got to give a huge shout out. My grandma Rose is tuning in. Grandma, I know you're so pumped to hear from Cindy. I didn't want to get to her yet. So pumped for our guest. I've been talking to our guest to my grandma. She's pumped. Nikki in the comments.
Nikki. We got Paul McNeil. Shout out to another Nikki from Cindy's team. We're going to get to her soon. We love you, Nikki. We miss you.
We miss you.
Who else in the comments? Let us know.
Paul McNeil, huge shout out. Guys, this is the OG Paul McNeil, the connector of all connectors. He's out here. He's linking. If you're in the crypto game, Paul McNeil, got to get in. And we're going to have a great show. Got Next Geners joining in. I know our team is here. Jenna. Huge shout out. Huge thank you to Jenna for putting this all on.
Matthew Dubin, thanks for joining us here today. Franzi, we love it. We're having a blast. But before, Jay, we get to the guest,
what's up, Jen?
We've got somebody that we got to shout out here, right? We got a partner or something like that? Who are we talking about?
This entire series is only made possible by AARP. And you might think, all right, next generation AARP, what's the deal? But we're super proud of the partnership that we have put together. Dylan, tell them a little bit about it.
AARP is here to support millennial caregivers. It's that time of year. We're all going home. We're all stuck inside. So they've got a full suite of resources to make sure that you have what you need to be your best self. So if you are a full-time caregiver, you know somebody, you're just being out, looking out for your friends, mom and dad, whoever it is, we've got you. Head to the link in the comments. Learn more about how AARP is here to support you and standing for entrepreneurs, making all this possible. We love them. We love you.
And we're so grateful to AARP and our guest here as well, because it's a pandemic out here. I think we also forget we're so busy, but it's really challenging out in the world. And we appreciate partners coming together from different parts of the landscape to help entrepreneurs who are dealing with a lot. And our guest today is someone who goes out of her way to support entrepreneurs more than so many people that we know. I am so excited and grateful to have Cindy. She's been a longtime Next Gen speaker, mentor, advisor, absolutely blew our stage literally away in 2017. Dylan, who are we bringing on right now?
All right, team. As Justin said, 2017 event, we had incredible speakers.
Beasts.
And we literally put a hole in the floor because Cindy had a rousing ovation. Like, Cindy, encore. So we're going to bring her to the stage in a second. She is the founder of the Pink Ceiling, Pinkbuator. She continues to break barriers. She's sold companies for over $8 billion. Ooh. She's focused on executing outcomes, and she's on a mission to make women really, really rich. I know my sister's listening, my mom, everybody's tuning in. So without further ado, Jenna, let's get Cindy to the stage. Bring her on live with Next Gen HQ.
I feel like I should be like punching gloves on, boxing gloves or something. What's happening? Are we gonna how are we gonna blow the doors off of this one? First, I'm counting on all of you guys for comments.
Cindy, we really appreciate you being here. The comments are already, Jen's like, hey girl, let's get to this. Teach me rock, James rocking and rolling. Cindy, where we want to start is we want to take it back. Dylan and I have gotten the great privilege to hear you speak and interact in person. And frankly, you're a total beast mode. Get out of Cindy's way. If you're in her way, get out of her way. But I want to ask, did you always have that kind of confidence in yourself, in your venture, how you carry yourself when you were getting started in the entrepreneurial game? Take us back a little bit for some of the younger entrepreneurs. They're looking at you. They're like, literally, get out of this woman's way. Were you always like that in that?
Oh my God, you guys are so much better than me. You're so far ahead of me. All of you who are watching right now are so far ahead of me where I was at your age. And I think even to this day, and especially I talk to female founders about this a lot, we always talk about confidence, right? You know what? When I get up, when I'm presenting to this day, my hands are sweaty, my knees might be shaking a little bit. It's not confidence like swagger, I've got this, whatever. It's competence. And you know what? I have always felt like I'm going to know this forward and backward. If somebody's going to challenge me, let's go. I know this material. And I think that's really where it comes from. So from, a young age, I was always insatiably curious, determined to know, whatever that subject was to the nth. And that's really what started at a young age. But confidence, I don't know. I don't think it's really just swagger.
I love that, Cindy. So many in our audience resonating with that. Andrew talking about blowing the doors off, right? Let's do this. You got to be prepared. And that starts behind the scenes, right? It's the work you do when no one's watching, when you're not live being interviewed. It's what you're doing, the other hours of the day that prepare you for these moments. So take us back, Cindy, to one of those first entrepreneurial ventures that you maybe looking back in hindsight can say, that was me being an entrepreneur, diving into my journey.
Oh, well, I have two big brothers, so you guys will appreciate. They say that whenever I created a game, which of course I was creating games because my two big brothers didn't want to play with me when I was little, I was the CEO of those games, whatever it was. So that started very young. And, I think it was about just always having that drive to go learn, to make money. Even to this day, when I interview people to come work for me, one of the questions I ask them is, what is the first way you made money? Now that's important because, you guys have all been through interviews, right? What do people ask you? What's your first job? And people go, oh, in my first job, I had an internship, or right after I got out of school, I worked for. No. That's not what's going to reveal that drive, that muscle, that motor that comes in entrepreneurs. It's what's the first way you made money? And I made money by getting my brothers to pay me to bring them things from the refrigerator because they were so lazy. They were going to sit on the couch. So that's okay. I could make a buck if I brought them a Coke. But, that really is, I think, indicative, even when I talk to people today, of who has the kind of motor it takes to be an entrepreneur. And for me, that motor has always been there.
Cindy, this is resonating with me and Dylan so much because we had an advisory in a meeting yesterday. We're talking about what are we going to do, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Natasha, huge shout out, Natasha, you're watching. Like, what are we selling? Let's get to sales. Sales will solve our problems. And you've always, I love how pure and authentic you always are. But how are we going to make money on this business venture? And that's going to really cut us through. And when we were preparing for this live, we asked our community, we asked our audience, guys, Cindy has built ventures that have real revenue, not a lot of these fancy startups that have a lot of great action but not money. So we're going to bring on Chris, a question from our audience, pre-sourced, and see what we're working with. Jenna, let's bring it on the screen.
Some technical
we may be having
stand by.
All right, we may be having some technical difficulties. We're going to get Chris's question looped up here. But Cindy, let's move on as we kind of work on that in the background. So thinking of revenue, thinking of sales, what are the issues that entrepreneurs are facing when they're trying to sell for the first time? You had told this great story at Next Gen Summit about trying to sell pharmaceutical company, a lot of maybe not necessarily women interested in women's issues who you're selling to. Can you talk about those experiences? And when it comes to sales, what you have learned in your background and advice you're giving to entrepreneurs?
I'll tell you what. So you have to be customer obsessed. Whoever that, so what do you have to do when I first start something? I've got to figure out who's going to connect with this, and I have to be obsessed with making that experience the best possible experience for them. So from my standpoint, if there's one skill we all have to master, it is selling. Because even if you're not selling a product, you're selling your ideas, you're selling your thoughts, you're selling your promotion, your raise, whatever that may be. And so I think when I go back, it's been about really spending the time listening up front to hear all the cues for who is really interested in what I'm, my mission, what I'm selling, whatever that may be, honing in on those and then inviting them into my experience and making everything that I do really so customer obsessed. I mean, for me, with the company that I built, the media calls it female Viagra. You guys didn't think this was going to get interesting. It just got interesting. Didn't it? You didn't think maybe that there was one of those, but you need to now and go tell your friends. But when I was doing that, there was all this misconception and everything else. And what I did at the first is I just sat and listened. So I understood perception. And then I understood how I could connect with people to what they were already thinking. That's kind of the critical part. We forget that we're listening. We're so busy, we're ready to get it there. But you got to spend the upfront time to really deliver, if you will, for customers.
I love that, Cindy. And what you're talking about is active listening, right? Something that Justin and we try to work with our team on. We ourselves have to get better every day.
Sure.
It's one thing to say, oh, I listen to my customers, but I'm reading the comments. Nikki is saying she loves this energy. Perry, heck of a beer juice. That may be unrelated, but it's more than that, right? It's being present and looking for the meaning behind what this person's saying, not thinking of what's coming next. So anybody who's listening, Cindy's telling you to be in that moment, right? Be present and enjoy for what it's worth that conversation. But Cindy, I want to go back to something you mentioned there. Oh, please go ahead if you're going to comment on
I
it.
was going to say, can I give a story? So I want to tell you guys a crazy story. So when I was selling in my very first company, we were selling a product, a testosterone product for men. My consumer were urologists across the country, right? It sounds pretty boring, doesn't it, to everybody who's on? So how am I going to make this exciting? How am I going to kind of stand out? Well, what I'm going to do is listen to people and understand their quirks, and then I'm going to connect with them. So crazy story, the top guy in the country, the most important customer I could possibly have, he did research on lizards when he was in med school. Okay, kind of weird, right? But we listened. We knew that about him. So when we would send him a box, when he'd order our product, we would drop a plastic lizard into his box. No one ever said anything about it. My head of shipping dropped a plastic lizard. And can you imagine the first time I went to visit him at Harvard, now you have a mental image. When I walked in, it was like the mahogany bookshelf, the fancy office. The second shelf, all he had was plastic lizards. That's customer obsession in a really quirky way, but in a way that really resonated. He valued that we knew something about him, that we were connecting with him in this unusual way. And it made him actually loyal to us in turn. So just, such an unusual story, especially in the pharma industry, who would think that? But those are the kind of things that really help you stand out in a sea of sameness.
Cindy, that is incredible. End of the day, people are doing business with people, right?
Right.
He's an individual. And I want to shout out two of our sales team members and leaders, Andrew and Malachi, who I know are listening out here, who are going the extra mile to learn that one of our partners, brand partners, maybe they had a recent child. We're sending a congratulations. We're sending a team photo. Those things matter, right? So listen to Cindy, find out how you can add unique value. But I want to stay on the sales subject, Cindy. You were talking about it at the beginning. You've spoken a lot on struggles and failure and getting back up. So talk to us about how you face failure and how you look at this as a growth opportunity. And maybe if there's a story or two that you can share with our audience to inspire them when the going gets tough.
Okay, I love this question so much because I want to do this right now for all of the entrepreneurs. I want to redefine failure. Because if you think about it, in our community, we have a lot of talk about this, right? Fail fast, embrace the failure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I actually see it a little differently. So I believe that there are things that didn't go my way. And actually, there are more things that haven't gone my way than things that have gone my way over the course of my career. But failure for me was not giving it my all. So the only way I think you truly fail is by not trying. And I'll give this crazy example. So when we came to a decision day on our product. So my product that got approved by the FDA completely controlled my fate. They had it in their hands. We were going to a big meeting where they'd invited all these experts in to basically vote. Should they approve it or not approve it? Okay. The night before, I threw a victory party. Now, my chairman was like, have you lost your mind? Shouldn't everybody be in bed? They should go to bed early. They should be getting prepared. This was the big day. Like, this was the day in court. And I'm throwing a victory party the night before the decision. And here's why I did it. Because whatever happened the next day, we had won. We were champions because we had seen it all the way through in terms of everything that was in our control. And I would just say to everybody, that's such an important piece of the mindset. And you know what happened? We won the next day. But we won because we walked in as champions. So many things I've gotten wrong. I mean, yesterday I got something wrong. Like, I get things wrong still to this day. And there were many moments. Like, there was a moment in which I picked the wrong investor. I'll give an example. My first company, I was growing. I needed more money. I was so excited. I wanted to scale and get salespeople. And then I picked this complete idiot to invest in my company. And you know what? It cost me like a year of my life, felt like 10 years of my life in trying to get them out because I forgot that I was choosing to. So there are many examples of things I have gotten wrong, but more fundamentally for everyone who's listening, if I could ask you to do one thing today, I'd have you walk away and I'd have you redefine failure as this simple. Failure is not trying.
Cindy, this is so powerful. And we had a team town hall yesterday talking about how it's not such a smooth, straight line that everybody imagines entrepreneurship to be. And Dylan and I were 6 years into Next Gen, and we know it's been a lot like this and this.
Yes.
And your story is incredible because you have all these exits, all these wins, and you're saying, guys, trust me, it is not like this. So can you fill in the blank for those who are watching? You Sprout Pharmaceuticals, and then we're thinking it's all right, we know how this story ends, and I think nobody even guesses. You're probably not even thinking. So tell us a little bit about that story and how that brings to life the fact that it's not a straight line and you got to kind of stay present and stay in the action.
Oh my gosh, you guys. First, I start a company called Slate. I go like this. I get everything wrong. I have product out of stocks. I don't do inventory control right. Everything. I ultimately get it to a place. Finally, it goes like this. And I am crazy enough to go back to zero because you know what happened? I found my calling. I had a product for men. There were 26 of them. There wasn't a single product for women for the issues that they deal with behind the closed doors of a bedroom. And that did not make sense. So I went back to zero and I started all over again and bet on myself again. And the reason I did that was because this was so big. So here I do this crazy ride where I just keep getting punched in the face. I do all of the work. I meet all the endpoints, and the FDA turned me down the first time. So guess what I did? I sat there with investors who'd bet on me. The FDA gave me a no. I turned around to them and I said, hey, I need you to bet on me again because I'm going to fight the government. Now, fighting the government for women's sexual pleasure, I'd like to say is the road less traveled. It was not such an easy conversation to turn around to investors and be like, hey, but go ahead, I need some more money. But they bet on me and we ultimately emerged victorious. I sold the business for $1 billion. And then wait for it, there wasn't $1 billion happy ending because the company who bought me didn't launch it.
Wow.
And I sat on the sidelines crying, truly. Like this was my baby. We'd fought so hard. Women deserve access to this. And then they didn't have it again. So you know what I did? I started back at zero again and I fought them. I got it back. We've launched it. It's on the market and I invest the proceeds of that exit. By the way, I got it back for nothing, but I kept the $1 billion and I invest that in other female founders who are also disrupting. And that was an example, you know, the reason that I had that leverage is because I learned along the way. I wrote a really good contract, a better contract than I'd written the first time. That's the evolution of entrepreneurship. We just keep getting back up. I think there's, you know, people always say, what's your superpower, right? That's a question, entrepreneurs. I think the answer for most entrepreneurs is relentlessness.
Cindy, you have the most badass story of all time. Literally, I think that's incredible. There are so many in the comments here who are just going, like, frankly, berserk for this. You can't even imagine because we're not told this in school. We were just on with so many great academic institutions this morning who are thinking about this. They're thinking, all right, we're teaching our kids, here's what you do. Year 1, year 2, you get a little better, year 3, and they're not telling you, no, your first contract's going to suck.
Right.
But you're going to learn from that and get your second contract.
So powerful.
Your story, you have that creativity to think about, all right, it's not this smooth line. We got so
Jennifer, Alan, failure is just a lesson for Cindy. I want to get behind the business of it for a second, because this is not something that anybody can do, right? They can't bet on themselves time after time. They can't have the fortitude to buckle in and say, I'm going down to zero because I believe in it. I want to unlock that mindset a bit. So talk to us about what you're doing to become your best self, your best Cindy. Is it meditation, mindfulness, journaling? What are some of the habits that you embodied then and today that you can share with our audience?
In a word, gratitude. That's the most important practice. And in fact, even in my company, I say there's 6 choices you have to make to work for me. And the last choice is gratitude, because I think it's so imperative that you wake up and live your life this way. And a great practice for that I was actually taught from a friend is I will take time every day to send notes to 5 people that I should just catch up with. You know, I might not have talked to them for a year. I might see them at a conference like every few years, but I take a minute and I do that. And here's what I will tell all of you. If you take the time to connect and be grateful that you're surrounded by these incredible characters in your life who have the ability, I'm surrounded by Dylan and Justin. I can learn so much from you. We connect. That gives me, you know, power to go through my day, energy to go through my day. And it finds ways in which you can collaborate that if you hadn't taken the moment to reach out to that person, wouldn't have materialized.
And Cindy,
Love that.
we all are trying to think about how can we be more grateful? How can we be more energetic? How can we connect? And I want to be honest, though, Dylan and I, we have it a little bit easier than a lot of others because we're white men in 2020 in New York City right here. And so much of your work has been about taking this mindset, this skill set, this experiences, but bringing it to those who are struggling against maybe various biases. And you do so much work with female founders, helping them launch businesses, grow. You invest in their businesses. So take us a little bit into the mindset of forget about being a woman in technology and pharmaceuticals over your career. What were some of those obstacles that you faced as a woman in business, and how's that educated you now to do the work that help all these?
This is what's so important in that, and you guys know the stats. I think less than 3%. 3% of venture funding goes to female founders. So we're basically saying that half of the population has 3% of the good ideas. Ridiculous. If you look at women of color, those numbers are even more appalling. And so what I think over the course of my career is it became very clear to me, not only by the numbers, but by how I was received often into a room, laughed out of rooms. Here's a woman in bright pink showing up to talk about female Viagra. I literally was laughed out of the room. So what was clear is I was going to be underestimated. And when that became clear, right, when I understood that and I didn't obsess over it, I made a choice. You have a choice to make in those circumstances. That could either push me backward and I would start to let it get into my mind and I might have self-doubt or I might be mad. I made a different decision. I leaned right into it. I used that underestimation as a power. I said, go ahead, underestimate me. Watch this. This will be fun. And it underestimated became unapologetic. And I do have an asterisk on this. And I think it's really important. So I never allowed that swagger, that watch me, watch this will be fun, to be frustration with the person across from me in the room. I never let it be personal. And I really think this is important because the best thing you can do is give people an opportunity to change their mind. And I'll give an example. There was a guy who was truly to get his endorsement would have meant everything to me. If he had written me the check, it would have been instant validation, right? That I checked the box. When I went to meet with him, he literally laughed me out of the room. Truly, I was ridiculous. What I was, I didn't fit the part in his mind for who should have $1 billion idea. I was in pink, all of these things. And yet I still kept communicating with him over the course of years. And last year, he came to my Pinkbuator. He sat in my boardroom in a hot pink chair, and he was across the table from me, and he said, Cindy, look at this. And he reached down to his pant leg, and he pulled it up, and he had hot pink socks on. And it was this moment where he was tipping his hat, and he was sitting in my office there to invest alongside of me. I gave him 1 billion reasons to change his mind, and I welcomed him back to the table because that is the difference. That's the multiplier effect. That's the game changer.
Cindy, that is incredible. Look at Jennifer
Incredible
in the comments.
story.
Who's laughing now, right? Cindy, you embraced your authentic self. You were unapologetically, goodness, you. And that is someone, myself, I got a mom and a sister. Justin, he's got his mom. We know that way more than 3% of the good ideas come from 50% of the population. Let me be on the record to say that. I so appreciate your patience. And that is something that a lot of young entrepreneurs, we want to get there yesterday, right?
Tomorrow, what's up?
Change
Success,
that
hello.
mind. Success, get that investment. But ultimately, it's the long game. And now you went from building companies firsthand to investing and helping young founders build companies as well. So if you can switch hats, entrepreneur hat, investor hat, I know it's one and the same.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you look for in a young company that maybe is coming to Pinkbuator, that it's pitching you for an investment deal. What are you looking for in those successful stories?
Oh my God. So I'll tell you, it has been an interesting transition to sit on the other side of the table, right? Because you're like, come on, I can do this. We know. But the best use of my time now is helping others get there faster than I got there for myself. Because I and my team can say, no, don't do this. We did that. That was a mistake. Do this instead. And that's so we're trying to accelerate that they get there more quickly than us. But really what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the person. So when you're in a pitch, I think you have to tell me 3 things. You have to say, what are you uniquely trying to do? Why are you the person to do it? And that's the most important piece. And what's in it for me if I go on the ride with you? Because that's the truth of investing, right? You've got to paint the picture of what's in it for them. But the second question is the most important, because great ideas do not execute themselves. People execute. And you can take, I would argue, the best idea in the world, put it in the wrong hands, it will go nowhere. You can take a pretty good idea, put it in the right hands, and it'll blow the doors off. And so that's really what I'm looking for. And I think the qualities in that person are really, I do look for this insatiable curiosity. I think that is an indicator that you are willing to learn, that you are willing to listen. And that's going to be your difference, because it is not going to be your one do this, your two do this, your three. It's not linear. That's not how entrepreneurship works. And therefore that open-mindedness shows me that you're going to be able to pivot and move in the way that you need to be truly successful.
That's
Cindy
awesome.
is telling all of the entrepreneurs out there that I want to hear about your startup. I want to hear about your revenue model and your business plan, but I'm first looking at you, the entrepreneur. And that is so key. Rich Keller, next gen advisor, mentor, in the comments say, I'll stake my life on this. It's the entrepreneur. They are the brand. And that's clearly so resonating, because it's so true. At the end of the day, we have a million ideas. We're doing a million things. It's us. That's all you got at the end of the day, to bring the heat day in, day out. Stay patient and stay on that long game. So Cindy, open the window a little bit into the Pinkbuator. What's going on? Because you guys have this incredible model, incubator, VC, but frankly, anybody who knows you, you're a coach at heart, and you coach us from afar and a mentor to so many. So what's going down in the Pinkbuator, and what are you excited about there?
Oh my God, we're going to launch the first flushable pregnancy test in the world.
Ooh.
By the way, only a woman would have thought of that. Watch out to all the big companies. We're about to give them a run for their money. I've got a woman who's going to reinvent the spinal tap. It's one of the biggest issues in ER. She's going to save the healthcare system tons of money when she does it. And again, all of these women who have these incredible ideas are going to change everybody's mind, so that the next woman that walks in hot pink, everybody reaches for the wallet, right? So we have the best ideas, a technology that detects date rape, drugs and drinks, and Alzheimer's technology. I get really excited about things that are game-changing firsts, particularly in healthcare, and frankly, catalyst in social conversations that we should be having. These are, I invest in the underdogs who are taking on things that are overlooked. And that's just good business.
Amen.
Cindy, I was expecting, I got a nice, startup.
No
There's
messing
one company.
around.
You're like, no, here are the world's biggest problems, and here
We're
are these
tackling
absolute badass women that are coming together to tackle them. Wow.
Cindy, what I love
We
that
take big swings.
you highlight, Cindy, something we joke about all the time. And by joking, I mean we are dead serious. We are on this mission to help a lot of people, have a lot of fun, and make a lot of money, right?
Yes.
It's okay to say that last piece, that you want to make profit. You want to drive real impact through a for-profit business model. That's what you're chasing, because you have been out there, you've seen these problems firsthand, and you're trying to rewrite the script. We love that. Shout out to Ivana Dumayan, who is a Pinkbuator company, a next gener out there. We love you, Ivana. We see you grinding, Fathom AI, crushing it. So many in the comments resonating with this idea of that catalyst moment. Again, Rich Keller, shout out to you. But Cindy, I want to look at you and say, what's next for Cindy? Because you built billion-dollar companies. You joked behind the stage about a book, maybe not.
Ooh, maybe. I'll tell you what, the most important thing that I'll do though, Dylan, is I'll make $1 billion worth of wealth for women. That's what's next. Is how to create the
multi. Close it down, Cindy. Close it down. Seriously, that's an amazing. Wow.
That's it. Because you know what? And I'm so glad you said it. Money is a conduit for good in this world. You never do it for the money. The money follows if you create true value. But ultimately, think about the good that you can do with that money in this world. It's why I say our Pinkbuator mission is to make women really rich, because I hope that I will make the next group rich, who will make the next group rich, and they will be able to sit on the other side of the table and invest in the kind of things that they want to see in this world.
Amazing.
1 billion in wealth for women. It is
done.
I'm on that train, and I don't know who is not on that train. Cindy, that's incredible. I cannot believe we're almost at time. We have young entrepreneurs in the audience. They're going to be looking. What can you tell them tomorrow that's a mistake you were making when you were a young entrepreneur starting out? And what they need, like Dylan and I, for example, patience and focus. We talked about that. I want success yesterday, and you're like, relax out here. It's going to take some time. What's something, maybe a mindset or a tactical mistake that you were making when you were getting started that our young entrepreneurs can hear from you as we push ahead?
Look, the biggest mistake I made, I said to you, is taking money from the wrong person, but I'm going to give you 3 P's. I call it paper towel, preach, pick wisely. Paper towel, write down exactly who you want to be in this world, what the mission is of this company that you're building, and do not compromise from those original principles. It's not a good startup story if there isn't a napkin or a paper towel. Write it down, be true to it every step of the way. Preach, tell every single person you meet in the elevator, at the grocery store, whatever it may be, without being arrested, what you're trying to do. We hold on to these ideas often as entrepreneurs. We're almost like paranoid, or we don't want to tell anybody, they might copy it. Tell everyone. You never know who will help you. And I think the final of pick wisely, and this is the most important part, and there are many of my people who are joined us here today, pick the people who are going to come beside you wisely. You are only as good as your team. They make all the difference. There are people on here who rip the sheets off every morning. They go to work for me. I am completely dependent on them, and I adore them. And I have made them owners in every venture I have. They share a piece of the company, and we cross the finish line together.
Love that. Cindy, we want to echo that. Shout out our team. The NGHQ team is tuning in, making all of this possible, serving on our mission to empower 1 billion entrepreneurs right alongside Cindy and $1 billion in wealth for female founders. That's what it's about. And I know, Cindy, that our audience is going to want only more of everything that you're doing. You've got your handle on social right there and your name tag. Where else can folks go to find out more about Cindy, everything you're building in the Pinkbuator?
Thank you. I hope you'll follow me at Cindy Pink CEO. I'm that on all the social channels, and you can find me at thepinkceiling.com.
Cindy Eckert, founder, entrepreneur, investor, incubator, mentor, coach, advisor, spiritual leader for entrepreneurs and young women who are trying to build wealth and create great businesses. Cindy, thank you so much for all you're doing for the next generation. $1 billion in wealth for women. We're looking out for you.
We'll see you down in North Carolina soon, all right?
Love the Next Gen crew. Thank you for having me.
So much love, Cindy. Thank you.
Cindy, we joined our 2017. Goodness. I'm serious. The stage literally flew off. She's telling this story, young entrepreneurs, and it is incredible. She's a straight shooter. She's telling you exactly what she went through, what she's going through, and she's not apologizing for wanting to build great businesses for women. It's amazing.
And you have to respect it because she gets it. She's been through the ringer as an entrepreneur, now as an investor. She wants to help her people get there a little bit faster, a little bit smarter, with a little bit less money maybe, save a headache or two, and get that time back to build their business. We are so fortunate to have had Cindy, someone who has been impactful to Justin and my journey. We know that she is just getting started, as the Next Gen community thinks it's day one as well. So we appreciate you joining us here today, team.
Look, Cindy's telling you what it is. It's not going to be one way up. There's going to be up and down and zero. And I'm going to take my company back and keep the billion, whatever it is. And you know that the Next Gen community has your back. So reach out to us, go on our website, learn about the resources that we can provide. And none of this would have been possible without the huge support of AARP, our partner. We're doing a campaign to shout out, celebrate, and support entrepreneur millennial caregivers who are not only trying to build a business and deal with all these issues, but take care of a loved one at the same time. We got resources for you, nextgenhq.com/AARP. Check that out and check out all the other resources, ways we can help.
So you catch you, and until then, join us at nextgenhq.com. Did on everything that we're doing. We see you, here to empower you. Now that's momentum. DJ out.